Alright guys, welcome back here. So you can see I went ahead and deleted the old script that we had before here, so now I'm dealing with a completely empty project, okay? I'm going to click on this right here, and let's call this numbers.py. Again, py is the Python extension from here, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about here is the concept of variables. Alright, if you're not familiar with variables here, think about like math class, when you had something like x plus, plus 7 equals 10. Well, we know that we could find out that x equals 3. So essentially this x right here holds a value from here. When I was first learning to do computer programming back in high school here, the instructor that taught me said variables are a little bit like jars. They hold some type of value, okay? So the way that we make a variable here, we're going to say num equals, let's call it num1 equals, let's call this, 15. You can pick whatever number you want from here. So now if I type out print, remember print is a command here, and I pass in num1, and I save this from here. I go to my terminal, I make a new terminal, and I'm going to say Python, and I'm going to run this file from here, numbers, hit tab on my keyboard here. We can see we get 15 back. So we're not printing out 15, we're printing out this variable, which equals 15 from there, okay? And of course, if you were adding numbers to a player's high score, if you were taking usernames here, you could assign that variable to equal to a username. Now, there are different types of variables from here. This right here is a num, and I can prove that by saying print, and I'm going to say type, if I can type right now, type, and I'm going to pass in num1. Now I'm going to save this from here, and then I run this again here. We can say this is a int, and an int is a whole number from here. So an int is a whole number, something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if I say num2 equals negative 15, and I print type num2, and I save this from here, we can see this is also an int, even though that is a negative number from there, okay? Now, if I say something like num3, and I set this equal to 1.5, and I print type of num3, you can see that this one's going to be a little bit different. Up on my, up on my keyboard here, we can see that this is now a float. So a float is something like a decimal from there. So a float is a little different than an integer from there, okay? Now, what I can also do with the Python is I can also do some basic math here. If I say something like num4 equals 5 plus 5, and I print out num4, and I run this again here, we can see, actually I did that right here, we can say now equals 10. I could also say, instead of 5 plus 5 here, I can say num1 plus num2, and we're going to get a value of 0, so why don't we change that to be like 10, this way we get 5. And now we can see that we get 5 back here. So I can assign variables here, and I can work with those variables as if they were numbers. Remember, they hold a value. They're like a jar, right? I could also, if I wanted to here, I could also multiply here. Num5 equals, let's say, num2 times num1. Save. Whoops, actually, I print that out. Print num5. Save. And I run this here. Now I'm multiplying negative 10 times 15 here, right? So I can multiply 2. I could also divide. If I wanted to divide from here, I say, actually, I'll show you guys another way to do it here, is I could just simply say num1 divided by num2. And save this from here. And now we can divide this one by this one right in line with that print statement from there. Now, another thing you might run into from here is something called modulus. And a modulus is basically like a remainder from here. So if I say something like 20 divided by 6, I'm going to have it equaling 3 with the remainder of 2, right? Because 3 times 6 equals 18, and there's 2 left over here. So if I say something like print, and I say 20, now the modulus is a percent sign on your keyboard here, 6, and I say this from here, it should equal 2, because 20 divided by 6 equals 3 with a remainder of 2. What's left over, okay? And this is just some basic mathematical operations from here, all right? Pretty simple. Now, another thing to be aware of here, if I say something like num6, and I say this equals, let's say 5 plus 5 times 10, and I save this from here, and I go ahead and print out, print num6, and save here, and I run this back here, well, now I get 55. So why is that, right? Well, keep in mind your order of operations, right? If you go back to, I think, probably middle school math class for most of you guys here, it's doing 10 times 5 first plus 5. If I want to do this part first here, I would need to include that in parentheses. Now, this number right here is already declared here, but I can also set this equal to a different value if I wanted to here. So I'm going to redo this here. Parentheses, 5 plus 5 times 10. Save, run this back up here, And now we see we also get 55 because I didn't print out the new value of 6, num6. Save, run this back up, oops. And now we have 100 because we're doing 5 plus 5 equals 10 times 10 equals 100 from there, okay? Now another way of working with numbers, if you wanted to here, another one that you might see here is I can say num6, and why don't we say this equals 100 right now here, and this is going to be, actually let's just do, yeah, that's fine, num6 here, and I can say plus equals 2. Now this is a little weird here because you probably didn't see this back in math class here, but basically what it's saying is go ahead and add 2 to it and reassign whatever it equals. So this should equal 102. Again, if I just go ahead and say print num6, save, and I run this back here, now we have 102 here. So we're adding 2 to it and we're reassigning it. This is essentially going to be equal to if I type out something like num6 plus equals num6 plus 2. These two things are the same thing from there. Okay, so hopefully that's making some sense here. This is more of a shorthand way to write it. All right, and I can get rid of that. Save. And let's see here. What else do I have for you guys here? I could also do this same thing here. num6 with different operations here. If I want to do divide equals 2. And I print out num6 here. So a little pop quiz here. What do you think this is going to be equal here? If I'm dividing it and setting it equal to 2 here, it's going to be equal to half the value here. So right now it's 102 here. I should get 51, 51.0, so it's a float, but still 51, okay? So you can see some basic mathematical operations with this from here, okay? A lot of the stuff is pretty simple here. Once you understand the idea of a variable here, a lot of the stuff is pretty simple from here, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this script up here. I'm going to keep making new scripts. So this way you guys can go back and reference it if you wanted to from here. But yeah, you guys can feel free to delete the script here. We're not going to be using the script anymore. So guys, great job in this video here. Now we can work with numbers here. And like I said, once you understand the value of a variable here, a lot of this stuff comes a lot more naturally from here. All right, guys, great job in this video. You guys did fantastic. Let me double check my notes here. I think we are good to go. So great job, guys, and I will see you guys in the next one.